Fashion, it's supposed to make you look good, but sometimes it just makes you look insane. For centuries, people have squeezed, powdered, painted, and balanced themselves in the name of beauty. And while today we complain about tight jeans, our ancestors were out here risking their lives for style points. From corsets that could literally crush your ribs, to shoes so tall you needed a support team to walk. These weren't just outfits, they were death traps disguised as elegance. Because in the old days, comfort was for peasants. If your outfit didn't make you suffer, were you even fashionable? So buckle up and maybe loosen your belt a little as we travel through history's strangest catwalks where beauty was pain and style was pure madness. The Deadly Corset. In the 1800s, the ideal body shape wasn't about comfort. It was about control. The smaller your waist, the higher your status. And if you couldn't breathe properly, well, that was just a small price for beauty. Doctors warned them it could crush their ribs and shift their organs. Fashion said, okay, but does it look cute? Fainting was so common, fainting couches became actual furniture pieces. They weren't for decor, they were for survival. Imagine attending a ball and spending half the night passed out because your outfit was too stylish. Some women even bragged about their waist size like it was a medal of honor. Oh, you can still breathe. Amateur. By the late 19th century, doctors linked corsets to everything from fainting spells to miscarriages. But still, the trend held tight, literally. Because no matter the era, people will always risk health for the illusion of perfection. So next time you complain about tight jeans or uncomfortable heels, just remember, at least your outfit isn't rearranging your internal organs. The crinoline cage. In the mid-1800s, fashion wasn't just about elegance. It was about taking up space. The rule was simple. The bigger your skirt, the smaller your social problems, because nothing says grace like needing a 3-foot clearance radius just to walk in a room. These crinoline cages were engineering marvels. Equal parts fashion, statement, and personal safety hazard. Women couldn't sit, climb stairs, or even hug someone without turning it into a minor disaster. And then came the real danger: fire. Crinolines were made of lightweight, flammable fabrics. One wrong move near a candle or fireplace, and poof, you were suddenly the main event in a very unfortunate fireworks show. Reports say thousands of women died this way. Fashion literally killed, and people still called it elegant. That's one way to light up a room. Eventually, designers tried to make them smaller, safer, and less likely to catch fire. But by then, the damage and the ego bruises were done. So if you've ever tripped over a long dress or felt your outfit was too much, just remember, at least you didn't need a fire extinguisher to go dancing. Chopines, the 16th century platform shoes. Before stilettos or designer heels, there were Chopines. Platform shoes so tall, you weren't walking. You were towering in Renaissance Venice. The higher your shoes, the higher your status. Forget personality. Height was literally social currency. Some pairs reached nearly 20 inches tall. Walking wasn't an activity, it was an event. And yes, women needed assistance just to move a few steps. Because nothing says wealth like needing 2 people just to help you cross the street. The Chopine wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a power move. When you stood 2 feet taller than everyone else, you weren't just in style, you were practically in the clouds. But of course, gravity had opinions. Many women reportedly fell, twisted ankles, and broke bones, because apparently physics wasn't fashionable yet. By the late 1600s, Chopines finally went out of style, making way for the modern heel. Slightly shorter, still painful, but less likely to send you flying. So next time your heels hurt after an hour, just be glad you don't need a spotter to help you walk. The lead face makeup. In the 1500s, pale skin wasn't just a beauty standard, it was a status symbol. If you were pale, it meant you didn't work under the sun. You were rich, refined, and apparently willing to risk slow poisoning to prove it. The secret to that porcelain glow was Venetian ceruse, a luxurious blend of white lead and vinegar. It made your skin radiant, flawless, and slightly toxic. Basically, it was the Renaissance version of beauty filters, except the filter was eating your face. Over time, it caused the skin to peel, blister, and scar. But instead of stopping, people just covered it up with more lead makeup. It was a never-ending cycle of damage and denial. The 1500s version of just one more coat. Even when doctors warned it could cause paralysis, blindness, or death, fashion didn't flinch. Because nothing says class like slowly turning into a medical mystery. So next time your foundation clogs your pores, just remember, at least it isn't lead-based luxury. The wig tower craze. In Marie Antoinette's France, fashion wasn't subtle, it was sky-high. Wigs weren't just hairstyles, they were architecture. The taller your hair, the closer you were to God, and social relevance. Some wigs stood over 2 feet tall, built from wire frames and stuffed with anything that added volume. It could take hours, sometimes days, just to assemble one masterpiece of hair and hubris. Basically, it was less styling and more civil engineering. Some wigs were so enormous, women had to kneel in their carriages. Dinner invitations included a note to check ceiling height, and if your wig brushed against the chandelier, congratulations, you just won Most Flammable Guest. But it wasn't enough for wigs to be tall. They had to tell a story. Some celebrated naval victories with ships perched proudly on top. Others displayed entire gardens, fruit baskets, or political messages. It was like Instagram, but made of hair. Of course, all that powder and perfume came with side effects. Wigs trapped heat, sweat, and the occasional wildlife. Fleas, food crumbs, and even mice made themselves at home. Basically, 18th century hair wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a small ecosystem with rent-free tenants. When the revolution hit, those towering wigs became symbols of excess, and soon they vanished, along with the heads of those who wore them. So the next time you complain about a bad hair day, just remember, at least yours isn't infested, on fire, or carrying naval artillery. The lotus feet, ancient China. For centuries in China, beauty was defined not by the face, but by the feet. Tiny feet, barely 3 inches long, were considered the ultimate mark of grace and refinement. They called them golden lotuses. The process began as early as age 5. Each day, the bandages were tightened until the arch broke and the toes curled beneath the sole. It was agony disguised as elegance. Once bound, a girl's feet would never grow again. Walking was painful, balance was nearly impossible. But in the eyes of society, suffering meant sophistication, because apparently, limping gracefully was the height of charm. Tiny feet were believed to make a woman's walk more delicate, her movements more feminine. What outsiders saw as torture, the elite saw as art. For nearly 1,000 years, this was beauty's gold standard. By the early 1900s, the practice began to fade. Outlawed, criticized, and finally abandoned. But its scars, both physical and cultural, remain for generations. Fashion can be beautiful, but sometimes it's brutal. And in the pursuit of perfection, humanity. The eyebrow-less look, medieval beauty. In the Middle Ages, beauty standards took a strange turn. While today's makeup trends focus on fuller brows, back then, the ideal woman looked like she was in a perpetual state of surprise. Women didn't just pluck their eyebrows. They removed part of their hairline, too. The goal? A massive forehead, which they believed symbolized purity, intelligence, and apparently extra thinking space. So if you've ever overplucked your brows in a bathroom meltdown, congratulations, you were just born in the wrong century. Pain and patience were part of the medieval beauty ritual, because nothing said, "I'm elegant," quite like a 5 head in zero expression. Trends may change, but one thing stays the same. Every era has its own version of, "What was I thinking?" From toxic powders to flaming dresses, fashion history proves one thing: style may change, but suffering for it never goes out of trend. So the next time your shoes hurt, your outfit's too tight, or your hair refuses to cooperate, just remember, at least your look isn't literally on fire. If you enjoyed this dive into fashion's weirdest moments, subscribe and join us next time for more strange stories history forgot.